Hey again, everyone. Welcome back to your favorite convention-related podcast, Con Job. This week, Lex and I are doing a review of Fanboy Expo, which took place September 6th, 7th, and 8th in Orlando at the Orlando Conventions, Orange County Convention Center in Orlando. And we start out the pod with a little bit of talk about advertising as showrunners and promoters, and how some of them seem to be dropping the ball or kind of relying on things that they shouldn't necessarily be relying on, instead of going back to kind of the grassroots ways of doing things and maybe incorporating that into the way that they're doing it today. So so we have a lot to talk about, so sit back and enjoy. Without further ado, Alexa, hi.
Hola.
Bonjour.
Yes, all the languages.
Yes.
Konnichiwa. I think that's another one.
Yeah, that is. So is ni hao.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we've got all the bases covered.
Well, we're live in 132 countries, so
Yeah,
want to cover them all.
Is that wow? That would be awesome. Live in 132 countries. Yeah. Well, somebody's going to get the Spanish announce table at some point during the show.
See.
Yes. So, what are we going to talk about? We've already veered way off course.
We got a couple topics. We're gonna do a review, but we're gonna end with that. You and I were talking before about advertising or the complete lack thereof,
right?
For some of these shows.
Yeah, I have on my Anime Town shirt, so that's it's kind of the thing. A lot of you guys know that I help out with some shows, and one of the things that we've really talked about is how advertising can affect and drive people to your show, or the lack of advertising or the lack of correct advertising can really hurt a show, because people have to know about the show. How do we find out about shows as vendors? We see it posted, or we've done it before, or we've got friends that have done it. So I feel like you and I know we have a pretty comprehensive list of damn near everything that's going on out there.
I like to think so, yes.
Yeah. But when you're a show promoter, it's really easy to fall into it's the right term. It's easy to fall into a trap.
So when you say that, though, do you mean like a trap because, hey, this show has been around for multiple years, so they're just like, everybody knows it's March 1st, like that kind of trap, or what do you mean?
Well, one, the trap of, everybody knows when the show is. We all know that, Motor City is the weekend after Mother's Day. It's always the weekend after Mother's Day. Unless something crazy happens, it's never not going to be the weekend after Mother's Day. We all know that Fan Expo New Orleans is always that weekend after the 1st. We know that that Dragon Con is always Labor Day weekend. Those are shows that you really don't have to, you don't have to drive home the dates. But you still need to advertise for shows.
Yeah,
period.
You still need to make sure that stuff is happening.
Yeah, especially for your for your new fans, to drive them in. But and I'm gonna kind of start on the back end. The mistakes that promoters seem to make is that they don't do a local ground advertising. Before I did all this, I used to do car shows, and we didn't have the internet. We had the internet, but it was not like it is now. We had AOL and chat rooms, and we had exactly. Could you imagine doing this show on dial-up?
It'd be a lot of this. It'd be a lot of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Buffering.
Spinning. Yeah. but we would advertise. We didn't have the internet to place Facebook ads and to place Instagram ads. So what we had to do is we had to talk to local businesses. We got local businesses involved. They would put up flyers. Some of these businesses would they would let us put big banners in the grassy area by where they were to
Right, right.
advertise. We went to other car shows and handed out flyers and put flyers for people to take because if it was within 200 miles, a lot of people would drive. But our biggest thing was getting those local people to come. Uh, that was the biggest obstacle. We would partner with the city, make sure that we were listed everywhere we could. In city things that are going on. Um, now, now it feels like people don't do that a lot. I did a show. I'm gonna go back to June, and I did a show that's typically the weekend of Father's Day. It's in Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans. Um, the wild thing is, though, this guy runs a comic book shop, but he doesn't utilize any of the tools that he has to get it out there. It's in a smaller town. There's no yard signs. There's no flyers in local businesses. There's nothing. And it shows. It shows that he's not doing the advertising. All he did was Facebook advertising.
Well, I was gonna say, what are the then? Because a lot of people do Facebook or Instagram. What are the negatives there? I mean, I guess what is not there that I know handing out flyers, putting something out like signs in the local area. I know that helps too, but what is there anything else that a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad is can't do? I mean, obviously,
Well, I mean, it honestly, it doesn't reach your target market. As much as I love Facebook targeted advertising, unless you are really good at
yeah,
hitting
that,
those
that's
targets,
yeah, that's
then
a
you're
that's an
not
art in itself
hitting,
for sure.
yeah, you're not hitting the group of people that you need to hit. And you're going to be spending a ton of money on Facebook ads that you could have cut in half or cut in a quarter, and you could have bought some billboards, you could have purchased some radio time, you could have
Even the
um
internet or the news,
yeah,
run
well,
an
and
ad on
there's a lot
there.
of free stuff. There's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of free stuff out there that you can do. The news is one of them. Every news station is looking for easy local free content to fill time. So, you get with them. And this is all advice for show promoters. You take a handful of your VIP tickets and you go to the local radio station and you say, "Hey, look, these tickets are valued at $100 each. I'm going to give you 20 of them. Give them away. Give them
Right.
away the 2 weeks leading up to the event, but you got to talk about us. Here's the info. This is it." And a lot of radio stations are like, "Wait, what? Free giveaways? Hell yeah, we're in." Because that's how you get the community involved. Those Facebook ads, you know what they're going to do? I mean, it's the same thing that I do. I click on the X because I'm tired of seeing the same ad 57 times. Uh, because it happens. Now, when it's a targeted ad and I come into that area, it makes me happy to see, that, blank promoter is advertising. But when it's when it's boring advertisement, hey, come shop our show is basically what it looks like. It's not as eye-catching as a video
Right,
or,
right.
is something that's going to get me a little bit more engaged. And you're going to get people through those. And depending on what your show is and the target it is, you're going to get people, but you're not always hitting the right target market because look, I can tell you right now, if I didn't have to have Facebook for the stuff that I do,
Yeah,
I'd,
I very, very seldom even check Facebook anymore. Most of my
yeah,
stuff's on Instagram, but even that, I'm just kind of flipping through the shorts, like because I
yep,
don't use TikTok, but I just go through the is that what they're called? Shorts or reels or reels?
Reels,
Reels,
reels, reels.
reels. Not the fakes, the reels. But
Yes.
yeah, that's really all I do because there's there's tons of funny ones. So
Yeah. Well, and that's the other side of it is unless you're doing an ad on those reels, you
right,
know,
yeah,
you're not seeing people's content.
right,
So, you know, it it's very tough, and a lot of show promoters have become disillusioned
yeah.
to the fact that
Lazy. It's kind of
yeah,
lazy in a weird sense because I mean I know they're not thinking let me just take the easy way out. They're thinking hey this is really helping, but you do got to have whether it's the actual promoter or hey I got a couple friends I got a couple kids let me just have them go down in the mall and just put them on the freaking windows of the cars. Is that
yeah.
even legal?
Well, it
Is
depends
that
on where you're
legal?
at. It's not legal in Florida apparently,
Okay,
but there are some states that it is. And look, I get
but you
crap
know
on
what I
my
mean.
windows all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, look, you do
It
what you got to
works.
do.
Yeah, it works.
I will 100% drive through a parking lot, and if I see somebody has a Star Wars sticker or a One Piece sticker, and I'm out promoting for one of the shows, I
Yeah,
will right there because I know that they're my target market. And it's few and far between, but it's still if I can get that one person that didn't know about the show to tell four of their friends and five people total come, that was worth me driving through that parking lot.
absolutely. You're right.
Um, so with that being said, there's a lot of promoters that have taken the lazy route, and all they're doing is Facebook um and Instagram advertising, and maybe a little bit of they'll send some flyers to a shop, um, maybe maybe, but when it's just that, the results are rough. I mean, take House of Mouse Expo. We've talked about them a lot on this show. The promoter is an influencer, so she believes that her Instagram
Is
reach
enough.
is enough, and
Yeah.
they just do Facebook and Instagram advertising. It's a Disney show in freaking Orlando, and nobody knows about it
Right.
because they don't do any local advertising. It's wild to me. I had this just yesterday actually. I had a promoter reach out to me, um, and they're bringing in um, a fairy tale slash princess Disney geared show next year into Orlando, and they reached out to me specifically to say, "Hey, what do we need to do there? I
I
know
know
you
a good
live
artist they
there."
could bring.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, Dominic's actually available that weekend. Um,
I don't know if he does princess
oh,
art. I'll ask him. I'm sure he could whip one
uh,
up because he's got
right.
a couple. But
No, but it's he said, hey, I don't know the area and you do. What do I need to do there? Because I've got this, and this that's happening. Um, what do we need to do? How do we need to target the advertising? And, can you help? And I was like, absolutely, I'll help because, I got you. I know you. Um, so that's what you've got to do. You have to figure out your area. Um, and,
and
that
so question for you on that, and maybe you don't know the answer to this. What is the good time frame to start this stuff? Is it 1 month, 3 months, 6 months out, a year out, or multiple?
So it depends. If you're starting up a new show, don't start advertising a year out. And I
Because
say
people
that,
just forget it.
well, people they're going to be hyped, but that's also, 11 months that whoever is your competitor can swoop in
Right.
and do the thing. Opening up that, hey, in 6 months we're going to have a show, is fantastic. Unloading your guest list when you have 6 months left, and telling everybody that's going to be there, probably not the best idea because it doesn't generate the excitement. But definitely, announcing in spurts.
Right.
That's
One
a
here, one
much
there.
yeah. Or if you've got a reunion, The guests that go together, you can announce them together, that kind of thing. Like if you've got a Jody Benson and Robbie, oh God,
Beast.
uh, or yeah,
Or no,
Page and Beast,
yeah.
yeah,
Wait, is
yeah, it's
Robbie the
Robbie.
Beast or is Robbie the Eric?
I think Robbie's Beast.
Anyway,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter.
You figured I would know that, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have a princess living in your house. Come on. Um, but announcing the dates and then starting to advertise for it, like legitimately advertise for it, you need to start a couple of months out. Um, because look, people need to save. They need, most everybody that I know lives paycheck to paycheck. Most of the people that come to Comic-Con live paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Um, or maybe not paycheck to paycheck, but like paycheck to half paycheck to paycheck. Like they've got that extra
Yeah, I get what
money,
you're saying.
but they
Yeah.
need to make sure they're budgeting it. You've got, and then, you've got to look at your dates because if it's at the first of the month, there's going to be less money to spend in that room. But that's a whole
Well,
other story.
yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on the pay period because, I, for mine, we get paid every 2 weeks.
Right.
So twice a year, 2 months out of the year, we get a
You pay,
third paycheck.
yep.
So I know not everybody's the same, obviously. So if you could kind of strike it where a bunch of the stuff in your area is hitting that third paycheck, like in August, for example, I know that's just luck of the draw, and that's a lot of research if you're able
Yes,
to do that. But
yes.
you know,
Um, but at the same time, a lot of times those people, if your show is, um, you know, the 31st, first, second of the month, there are very few times of year that it's it's a good idea to do that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you know, Beginning of the year, people still have some of that Christmas money left over, so it's not a terrible thing. But, in April, everybody just paid their damn taxes. So there's not as much money, or there might be money because they got taxes back.
right, right.
Um,
But
but
January, well, we've talked about New Orleans just being so early. I don't like
yeah,
it,
it's
but
so wild. Yeah, because that's like literally 2 weeks after Christmas.
right.
Um, which I know I'm still broke after Christmas. Um,
I don't even know what's after Christmas.
yeah, right. So the advertising you've got to start early and you've got to ramp up because you also have to remind people,
So what's
hey,
early though? You said not a year. Is it?
well, a few
Is it?
months.
So okay. Now, because I
Yeah.
was gonna say, would it make sense to like hit them 6 months and then hit them again at three, and then a month before, or is that
Well,
overkill?
if you announce your show 6 months out, you're putting out those people for the next 2 months. So now people have had 2 months to get excited. You maybe hit a targeted ad for local, just for your city. For Orlando, just a blanket Orlando targeted ad. And then once oh hey, we're having a supernatural reunion, and we've got four people from the show.
Right,
You create a targeted ad for people that like supernatural and supernatural adjacent
right,
topics in Orlando, in Tampa, in Jacksonville, in Gainesville, and in Miami. You do those targeted ads. That way, those people know. But you really start hitting the heavy side of your advertising about 6 weeks out. Like, and some people will disagree with me and they'll tell me that it's too far out, but you've got to start hitting that because people have to ask off for work. Like, that is the biggest thing is that we forget that people work on weekends because we see them at conventions. But they've asked off for those times. They've asked off for those days. And, I know, especially in Orlando, we've got, theme park workers out the wazoo. We've got service industry workers out the wazoo. We have retail workers out the
they're
wazoo.
they're actually called cast members.
Yeah, well, you know what? Theme park workers because
I guess Universal,
Universal,
like
yeah,
SeaWorld.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep,
All
yep,
right. All
yep.
right. I'll buy it.
Legoland.
I'll allow it. I'll
Yeah,
allow it.
the religious experience. Oh wait, that closed.
Oh,
Um,
did it really?
yeah, they tore it down.
Meg's
They've got
mom.
a
Meg's mom loved that place, the
oh
Coliseum.
my gosh, yeah, it was so crazy. It was a religious theme park.
Yeah.
Um, they tore it down and put an urgent care there, which is, I mean,
Oh,
I guess makes sense.
interesting.
Um, but yeah, they owed like millions and millions of dollars to the city, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but you've got to make sure that those people have time to ask off. You can't start advertising heavy 2 weeks out and think that people are going to be able to um, be able to get off. And you have to be strategic. And I'm gonna tell people this, and promoters, if you're listening, like legitimately listen up. This spring in Orlando, um, there's an it's the hell intersection. It's the worst intersection in the damn city. It's Turkey Lake and Sand Lake Road. There is a billboard that is right there in the busiest spot that you typically sit in for at least 5 minutes. I saw, because my chiropractor's over there, I saw no less than 5 billboard flips for MegaCon
Yeah.
during the
Right.
time that I was sitting there. Um, and I saw them all over the city. Now, do you have to go that heavy? No, obviously not.
And
But
that's actually a good thing to bring up because MegaCon huge. You know
yes,
what I mean? Especially in Orlando, it's huge. And
yes,
they are cognizant of it. Hey, we needed to make sure people remember because it moved dates.
yes, yeah, they're
So
moving dates again this year.
that's what I mean.
For Super Bowl weekend. So, I saw the week of the show. I saw tons of advertisements
Wait, it's
everywhere.
Super Bowl weekend?
Mm-hmm.
So that means Sunday it's going to be empty.
Bills are not going to make
I
it. It
will
doesn't
not be there
matter.
because we all know Joshua Allen is bringing us to the Super Bowl.
That's you'll be
So
there. You will be there. So, and it's in New Orleans, so you could drive over, and not watch the Bills. Yeah. So, yeah, it's on Super Bowl
go
weekend
Bills.
this year. Jesus. Um, but they're gonna have to advertise that to remind people that, hey, this is happening. Um, with that said, there's definitely a lack of advertising that's being done on the show circuit, and it's really easy to tell when a show has not done the local advertising that they should have. Now, sometimes they do the local advertising, and the area just doesn't react to the event. Um, it happens. Sometimes there's outside forces where, you've got two other competing events going on, or, you've got, rain. Because I can
Yeah.
tell you right now, in Anaheim, people don't like the rain.
Well,
But
in
there's there
Florida right now it rains every damn day.
it really does, and it will
So
rain every day until like the middle of October.
yeah,
Um, Rained last night when I was doing inventory on stuff at the shop.
we had just got the car cleaned, and on the way back it rained. It's
Exactly.
awful.
Yeah, it's how it works. So you can definitely tell when events haven't advertised, because they can have a phenomenal guest list and not have the people to support that guest list.
Right.
So with that being said, let's
Oh,
uh
I
let's
was I was actually
transition.
gonna say I think we should probably cut it there because I think we could do a whole thing about this, but
We really
that's not
could.
what
We
it's
really
not what
could.
this podcast is really for. But it's good because we do get vendors and we have people who want to run their own shows.
Yep,
So this is it's good for them. But yeah, so let's get into it's a perfect segue
it
into where
is.
we're
It
going.
is.
So let's talk about it. So Fanboy Expo, right? It took place September 6th, 7th, and 8th in Orlando at
Yep, at
the
the
Orange County
Orange.
Convention Center.
Yep, in Hall D, which is one
West.
segment of the West Hall. It's in the smack dab, actually not in the middle, but close enough in the middle to everything. Um, it's about 80,000 square feet, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a fairly large chunk of real estate.
Okay. So let's get into the normals. Well, actually, before we do, when you say in about 80,000 square feet, was that hall filled with vendors, or did they? I guess vendors and celebrities.
Yeah, it had vendors and celebrities, but
I know, but was it completely filled up, or do you think it was? Do you think it was too many?
we'll get into it. We'll get
Okay.
into it.
Okay. So you take it since you were there. You take it.
Well, first, I had such a problem with how we did load in. Load in on Thursday was 2 to 6.
Well, that hall is
Um,
actually should be easy. That's
it's
a
pretty accessible.
yeah.
There was Surf Expo was going on next door. Um,
Surf like cowabunga dude surf.
yes, like Cowabunga dudes.
Okay.
Surf Expo was going on. Um,
Check out my sex wax.
exactly. They had already loaded in, so we had pretty much the entire area to load in that we needed. Um, the problem is, Ryan, and as a Floridian, you know, what time does it rain in Florida?
Around 4 o'clock
Exactly. Um,
every
you
day.
know, so middle of the freaking load in,
Oh,
it's pouring down rain. And they closed those doors at 6 o'clock. There was they let some people roll in, with a little bit of stuff, but they were pretty much done. Um,
wow,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
that's awful.
it was pretty crazy. But they the load in was very simple. They you went, you checked in, you got a couple of badges, they took you to your booth. They walked you over there so that you knew where you were at, and that was it. You started your load in. Outside of the rain, it was very simple. As simple as it gets. Nobody was calling me to tell me, "Oh, you've been out here for 36 minutes. You gotta go."
Yeah.
Um, it was pretty cut and dry and simple. Um, with that said, um,
That was the best part of the weekend.
yeah, 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 it really was. I was told that because of my terrible placement in Knoxville, that I would have a better spot. That I'd have a good spot in a high traffic area. And I got to tell you, facing the
They were
back of the
kidding.
room, facing the food court, uh, on a weird corner, was not the best spot in the room. Um, and I felt bad for Dominic. Dominic was there. He came down, visited his family after Dragon. They bought a
Yeah, he has a
premium.
storage. He has a storage unit there, and his
Yes.
mom lives there too. Yeah.
Yep. So he had a double premium booth there. His original location was even worse than mine. It was literally the very last booth, even with where the food like the food area was. So it was not a good spot at all. Um it just didn't get a lot of traffic. I felt bad for the people that Dominic moved. I felt bad for the people that eventually were in that spot, because I don't know how they made any money that weekend. Um, so let's get into Friday,
Yes.
shall we? The the rest of this video is a long one because this is a really short review. Um, Friday
Well, I mean,
was
it's always foot traffic to me. That's always my
it
first thing
is
is what's foot traffic like? Because if the foot traffic is there, they did their job. And
well,
then it's up to us to sell.
uh, there was no foot traffic. Um, I didn't make a sale for 2 hours, and on Friday I made 4 sales. Four,
Oof.
four, four.
You have to go woo.
Yeah, I was gonna. Um, so now, mind you, okay, I had a fantastic average sale. My average sale was over $70. So yay, I did, I did almost $300 on Friday in an, you know, in an area where most everybody that I talked to might have made one sale or none. It was a very slow Friday. I talked to a guy who was like, "Yeah, I killed it today. I did like 2,500 bucks," and I looked at him and I'm like, "What were you selling, Pops? Pops to get signed." Okay, okay, I get that. Um, so then, you know, the show ran from what was it? Uh, 3:30, I think was the time that we opened, and we ran until 9. So it was definitely boring. I walked away from my booth because the guy across from me was like, "Oh, I'll keep an eye on it. I'll text you if somebody comes up." Walked away from my booth. I talked to some of my Anime Town vendors that were there, and we were just kind of shooting the breeze, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this is really slow. Like, holy crap." Um, I did not get a text for an hour, and I
Wait,
went
what?
back.
A text? What is a text going to do?
A text. My guy across the way was, "Hey,
Oh, if
text
someone
me."
was at the booth. I got
Yeah.
you. I got
So
you.
I ran back over, and they were my last sale, and that was at 7:45
Oof.
on Friday night, and
That's
I
when I
was
get.
just
That's when I would get a lot of my French lessons in.
right. Well, I planned out my inventory for Salt Lake. I planned out inventory for New York. I did research on a new supplier. Like, I did all kinds of stuff. So I had time to do stuff, but I'm like, man, I definitely wasted time today. Um, so Friday night I was exhausted. Um, I end up I ran to the shop Saturday morning because there was a couple things that I needed. Like, I wanted some X-Men cups, and I wanted I'd run out of Spaceballs stuff the weekend before. I forgot that I didn't have anything. So I ran out and made a couple of things real quick, and came back, set up at the show, and Saturday morning, like, I was excited because I looked outside before the show floor opened, and there was probably 1,000 people outside. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, good. This is a good start. Yeah.
but
Those
but
1,000 people literally went to the celebrities. Now, mind you, they had a fantastic,
yes, they
fantastic guest
did. And
list.
I'm gonna pull it up here because I know
Yeah,
there was
they had the live action Turtles, Rebecca Romaine.
Rebecca Romaine. Yeah,
They had the Red Dead Redemption voice cast. They had the voice of Mew, the voice of Frieza, the voice of um, oh God, All for One from some animes. If you don't know, um, they had a Buffy
Pe-
reunion.
people from Buffy. Yeah, that was the big one, or not big one,
David
but there's
David
some.
Moran's was the big person.
Right.
Barbara Eden, and I'll tell you about Barbara Eden in a second. Let's see, who else did we have there? Um,
Bones, the show Bones. They had that
yep.
reunion for them.
Uh, they also had a Mummy reunion with um, the Magi guy and Anaxuna Moon.
Right.
Um, who else,
The
man?
Willy Wonka. The three. They had what's her
Yep.
name? Veruca Salt.
Yes.
Veruca Salt, Mike TV, and Charlie was there, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Three's
Uh,
Company. Well, two of them because one of
yeah,
them's dead.
yeah. Um, it was so funny. I think it was John Swayze was losing his mind over one of them. Um, but they had a great,
Oh, Dean Kane was there.
absolutely, yeah. Dean Cain was there. There was another Superman that was there. Um, the Larry Hannah, the
Wait, you
yeah,
left off. You left off the important ones.
Hacksaw Jim
Hacksaw
Duggan.
Jim Duggan,
Yeah, baby.
Samoa Joe. All
Yep.
right.
You know what's crazy? I didn't see Samoa Joe all weekend.
Oh,
Um,
really?
Most of them were walking past my booth to get to the green room, and I never saw them. I did see Rebecca Romaine, and I definitely gazed
Gush,
longingly at her.
gushed over it. Yeah,
And
she's
then and
beautiful.
then then Jerry O'Connell walked by, and I was like, how did that happen? Um, no, he was there, and a lot of people were there to meet him, but to meet her, you had to meet him, or to
Right.
meet him, you had to meet her. Um, so the guest list was stacked. Here's the problem. There were more guests, and they had like 7 or 8 cancellations. Okay. There were more guests than there were vendors.
Wow.
Let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
There were more guests than there were vendors. So, in theory, that should be great for us, but they were literally all sucking up the money that was in the room. Barbara Eden was selling these genie bottles that you can buy on Amazon for $60. They were selling them for upwards of $250, and she was autographing them for an additional fee. Um, it was nuts, man.
Yikes.
She was busy all weekend. She probably put through if she put 500 people through, she put 1,000 people through. Um, it was legitimately insane. Um, I've never seen a celebrity of that age have so many people of such a diverse age range. It's very. I liken it to Dick Van Dyke in Salt Lake City a couple years ago. Um, it was wild. So
Hmm.
with that said, let's get back into Saturday. Um, I was excited for the crowd that, had trickled in. And I would say they probably had 2,500 to 3,000 people on Saturday, but it didn't feel like it because the room was so big
So big, yeah.
and because they were all waiting in line for celebrities. David Brand's line was forever long. Um, I talked to a girl Saturday afternoon, evening, um, that I see her at a lot of shows. Like she recognized me, and so we chatted for a little while. Um, but she wanted to do the Buffy reunion. So she was in line for most of the day getting those Buffy autographs and then doing the photo op. And when she wasn't doing that, she was rushing to one of their panels because the panels were spaced so close together, with their photo op times and everything else, that it contained people, for a good portion of that time. So Saturday, towards the end of the day, I had my rush when a lot of the celebrities started leaving. We were there until 6. I I had made, I think, 2 sales, 3 sales. Um, until like 4 o'clock, 3 or 4 o'clock, and then I ended the day with like 14 sales.
Oh, okay. And it's because the panels were getting out at that point, right? I'm
Panels
assuming.
were getting out. Everything was was rolling up, so people were actually shopping at that point. I was pretty happy with the fact that Saturday wasn't a bust. Still a pretty good average sale, not this over $70 average sale that I had the day before, but um, the people that were shopping were buying things. So that was helpful. Um, but still absolutely not what it should have been for that guest list and for the crowd.
Right, right.
Um,
And
but then of
I
course,
mean, luckily you live 10 minutes away.
well, exactly. There was a small part of me that was like, man, I should just buy a little motorized, like one of those electric scooters and start riding it down to the convention center.
Yeah.
Um, because it'll make more sense. I could save $20 a day on parking, by the way. Which, you know, there's another show that we do there that somehow is $40 a day. It's interesting.
Well,
Um,
we had Autumn on, right? Or was it? No, we had Rich on talking about it. It's the
yeah,
it's the event. It's one of those things. It's like, hey, it's the supply and demand. They know they're going to get 100,000 people, so why not make it 40? And they know people are gonna, you know.
yeah. It's just it's a drain. And the thing is, every other event that I've ever done there, like before 2022, was $10. every event there that I do since, every time I go down there to park is $20. So
I'm
that's why I'm like, why is it
just gonna say
$40?
inflation.
Yeah, that's not it. Um,
Sorry.
but again, if it is, it's caused by corporate greed. Um, so I was pretty disappointed with um, with the performance for Saturday, and I did dinner with one of the friends of the show, John Swayze, not dinner, drinks, and an agent. So I kind of got to talk to them and just kind of BS about the show, and I overheard a conversation that they were pretty upset about the attendance. Um, and we'll get into the reasoning behind the attendance here in a minute. Um, but the showrunners were pretty upset about the attendance. Obviously, they're going to be upset
Obviously,
because
yeah,
they want more people in the building.
right.
Um, but
So at least to cover the minimums.
well, um, so let's get into Sunday. Sunday was wild. Um, I'm thinking to myself, okay, these people have to come and shop today, right?
Or please,
Or you're right, like maybe.
por favor, s'il vous
Um,
plaît.
it was so wild Sunday. Um, the guys across from me, I'm not going to name the booth, but they packed up all of their small stuff and just had big stuff out. And I was like, what are you doing? And they're like, well, we're going to try and see if, we can get some bigger sales because this big stuff we'll be able to pack up in a couple of minutes. We're going to be out of here no later than 5:05.
Right.
Show closed at 5. Um, so I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Um, but they didn't have a sale until probably 1 o'clock. The show ended at
Oh,
5. Okay. The
sucks.
the show opened at 11, but closed at 5. So, they didn't have a sale for a couple hours. I had a sale in the first like 10 minutes. This guy came by. He's like,
So you
okay,
were
I've been
like, all
waiting.
right.
Yeah. That was my first sale. That was my only sale for an hour. Um, and I had a couple of smaller sales, throughout the day. Had had a lot of my customers were repeat customers from other cons, which was awesome. They
Oh yeah, I like that.
yeah, they took advantage of the fact that like there are certain items that I don't charge as much for at lower entry shows. Um, the booth cost at this show was $500 for a corner. Um,
Okay.
so I'm not spending $2,000 a corner, so I don't have to charge as much for items to make up the difference. Um, so, uh, a couple of the items were a little bit cheaper, and they were like that. Um, but man, it was definitely a slow trickle. Uh, talking to some of the vendors, a lot of them did not make their booth costs back.
Oh, I hate hearing that.
Um,
It's
yeah,
awful.
yeah, same. I had a
Especially if they
guy.
had traveled there too. Like it's
Well,
one thing if you didn't because you lived there, like okay, whatever, but it still
right.
sucks. But if you imagine hotel, flight,
Well, and that's
or
the thing. A guy
driving,
came from New York.
yowzers.
A guy came down from New York, and
That's
he.
3 days, right?
I mean, it's 19 hours.
Ugh.
Um,
It's 2 full days.
so
I just threw
19
up.
hours. This is the part that's messed up. He bought like 5 Artist Alley tables and set up pops in those
Is that
Artist
even
Alley
allowed?
tables. Man, there was some
It's
crazy stuff
artist
going on
alley,
at
right?
this
Not
show.
vendor alley.
Yeah. We'll get
Really?
into
That
the
sucks.
weird stuff with this show here in a second, but like you know, weird don't do that at shows
They should
aside.
allow that. They should
Yeah.
allow that. It's art.
Um,
Ist
he didn't
alley.
even make back his costs for his
Well,
booths.
good. I mean,
Um,
I feel bad most of the time, but not when people do that.
well, I
That's
feel bad
I don't
for him
I don't
because
like that.
that sucks.
I don't
But
like that.
and we'll get into it here in a minute. Um, there was a guy that bought 3 booths. He sells Ren Fair garb. I see him at a lot of shows, and he had a conversation with someone, and he was told something that was very striking. And this is obviously secondhand information, but he had made a comment about the crowds and about how there wasn't nearly as many people here as what there should be for this type of show. And he was told that some vendors need to just learn how to take a loss.
I remember when you told me
Um,
that, I was like, wait, what?
yeah, I yeah, exactly. Um, so let's end the Sunday and talk about loadout, and then we'll get to the wild stuff with this show. Um, Sunday ended up. I I did about $100 more than I did on Friday. Um, so I wasn't upset. I less than doubled my costs, and that's parking, product cost, everything. But I'm glad that I didn't lose money. If I would have driven to this show from anywhere
Right.
and
Paducah.
had a hotel stay, I would have lost money.
Right.
I would have, I would have been livid. Because this is the second Fanboy show. I did more at this Fanboy than I did the last Fanboy that I did in Knoxville. Um, and I had much higher expenses there. But I got to tell you, you know, I don't know where the mojo went for them, but man, this was a rough show. I didn't get to see the crowds, but I would wager that they probably didn't do more than 4,500 unique people all weekend. Um, and that's being generous. Would I go back? I don't. I mean, I'm local, so
I was gonna say, even that with that
it,
this is actually the perfect way to do it. Like, it's local, and it was crap. Would you go back? I
it,
mean, we did it last year, and luckily restayed at your house. So I don't. I wouldn't send again.
I it,
And you're
I
there.
get yeah, I'm here. I gotta tell you, I would have to see local advertisement going on, because that's what we're going to get into now, is
Right.
that this show, that's why we talked about this so heavy earlier in the pod. This show did not do anything locally. Orlando is such a unique market because it's very similar to Las Vegas. We have so much entertainment here that I don't want to come to iDrive. I live on iDrive and I don't want to come here.
I
Um,
know.
like
Nobody wants to drive on I-4
yeah, you
between
know,
those times.
exactly.
Is
So
it me, or is it side topic? And I apologize, but is it me? I lived in Daytona. I went to school my freshman year in Orlando, and I-4 is always under construction,
it
and
is.
they never do anything.
No,
It's still
no,
always 2 lanes. It's always still the worst possible road you could ever drive on.
it's the
Couple
worst.
that with terrible driving. It's yeah,
And tourists, lots of tourists that don't know
right.
how to drive.
Yeah, and
Um,
yeah.
it's so bad.
Sorry,
Um,
I digress.
yeah, so I would have to see a lot of, like ground advertising, that grassroots stuff, the flyers in shops. I'd have to see them at shows that are local. I need to see billboards. I need to see 2 weeks out. I need to see one of them, somebody, either via Skype or in the damn studio doing an interview about the show.
Right.
Somehow, some way, getting it out there for people so that they know it's happening. Um, but next year, the landscape of Orlando conventions is wild. Or Central Florida cons. This year there was QuestCon that happened in the DoubleTree right down the street. That's a tabletop board game show. But they drew like 3,000 people, and every vendor that I talked to that was there killed it. There's a one-day event that happens in Kissimmee That Kissimmee event draws 2,500 people. It's
Right.
a single 8-hour day thing. That's a lot of people through the door in a local facility. Um, but it was the same weekend. There was another event in Daytona last weekend. There's another event in Daytona this weekend.
What
Next
was the
year,
Daytona one? Is that the Ocean Center?
I'm not sure. I know somebody was telling me about it. They were like, "Oh yeah, we went up there yesterday and we came down here today." And I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever."
Interesting. It's a half, what, 40 minutes? Yeah, I used to do
Yeah,
that drive all
yeah.
the time.
So next year, you've got let's see, MetroCon. You have this new convention that's coming in,
Isn't Metro in Tampa?
Tampa,
Yeah.
but Central Florida. I mean,
Oh,
we're
so,
all
okay,
within.
okay. Yeah,
I
yeah.
could drive across.
It's
I can drive across Florida in an hour and 45 minutes. Like, let's
yeah.
be honest. Um, so you've got MetroCon in July. You've got this new con in July. You've got SuperCon in July. You have
Well, SuperCon's not central. That's south.
but it still draws a lot of people. Um, it
Yeah, but
does. It
no,
does.
it does. It's just freaking. I hate that
I
show.
I know. Um,
And we're
then
local.
you've got Tampa Bay Comic Con. You have Fanboy Expo because they are coming back. You have a Star Trek convention that's coming into town.
And that's not even thinking about the ones that are in the hotels, like House of Mouse, and like there's Holiday Matsuri. There's
Well, but I'm just
tons.
talking about from July to September.
Okay, okay.
You have QuestCon. You have this thing in
I
Kissimmee.
know they have the Ranger one, right? Ranger
Ranger Stop happens
Stop.
in November.
Okay, good.
But you've got 90s Con in Daytona. You
That's the one I was
have
thinking of.
let's see, uh,
Well, we don't
uh,
have to get through all of them. Just there's a
Soji
bunch.
Expo.
There's a
You have
bunch.
you have
Yeah.
GalaxyCon coming into town. There are so many conventions next year in a matter of an 8-week, 10-week time span that it's gonna be really tough for anybody that didn't establish a foothold or fell down to come back up. Um,
Yeah, and that actually I have that's going to be some topics. I know we've teased the long con, and we have quite a bit of quite a number of topics to go over
yes,
for
yeah.
that. So, and I
Um,
that to me is one of them is the oversaturation stuff. But
oh,
we
absolutely,
we don't have to get into
absolutely.
it now. But yeah,
Um, so with this show, it's I'm gonna be really hard pressed to come back, even though it's in my backyard, even though it's probably going to be on a weekend that I don't have anything,
well, look at it
because
this
it's
way.
such a huge risk.
Look at it this way. You could get 3 Artist Alley tables and just sell your glass there.
Well, exactly. So let's go into the Artist Alley thing. This show floor layout was terrible. Um,
Okay.
it's guests around the perimeter of the building,
Like
and
literally
all
circling,
yes. So
not
three
just in the
sides of the
back.
room
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have guests, um, and they put their two biggest guests towards the
In the
front of the
corners.
room.
Ugh.
So yeah, they didn't put them in the back.
Yeah, they got to be in the back.
Rebecca Romaine was literally when you walked into the room, if you walked to the left, she was the very first guest that you saw. David Baran's was on the right side, kind of in the middle. But the way that they had it laid out, there was a vendor that basically was working on a dead area because nobody was walking in that area that they were at. Um, there wasn't stuff to draw people over there
Right.
and down the aisles. And then, just like what they do in Knoxville, their artist alley is in the back of where the exhibitors are, but it runs instead of running front to back, it runs side to
Side to
side.
side.
So the vendors that were kind of caught in the like on the sides of that, I was one of them, did not get the traffic because it's the artist alley screwed up how people were walking. Um, it didn't flow at all. So again, though, there were a lot of empty spaces in Artist Alley. I think there was one vendor booth that wasn't taken up, so I think that's why they sold that vendor those Artist Alley tables because they just wanted to sell
Oh,
booths.
okay. Well, I'm
Um,
okay with that, but normally
yeah,
that's bullcrap. But yeah, okay.
oh, it's 100%, and they didn't address people that were actually creating booths in Artist Alley. and there's an accusation that's been thrown out there, that one of the people that was there was using AI to do their art. And I know the person that's made the accusation. I can't support it 100%. Like, there's looking at the art, there's definitely some stuff that um, that gives AI vibes, but the way that the con handled it wasn't that great. There was a whole lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Angst this weekend. And a big part of it was because the show performed so poorly. Because
Right.
let's be honest, if we were banging out customers all weekend long, nobody would have said anything about any of it.
Okay.
So yeah, would I go back? Nah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. That's from a
Yeah.
local. That's from a local person.
Indeed.
And it's too bad because that show has promise, especially with that guest
Oh,
list. It
with the
just
guest list.
put a little
Yeah.
extra effort. I feel like, but maybe we have Dave. We've had Dave on before. It's Dave Heyman, right?
Yep, Dave Heyman.
Yeah, we've had him on before. Like maybe we could reach out to him and tell him, hey, fix your crap.
Yeah, right. Fix your
But
show,
they
man.
got what is he has 3 shows, right? It's
He had
Knoxville, Orlando, and Columbus.
they stopped Columbus.
They stopped it. Okay.
But he has an anime con in Knoxville as well. I think he did a 1 year anime show in Vegas, and with him being from Vegas, he should absolutely know how to
Yeah.
get people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I
Well,
digress. I digress.
should we go ahead and wrap it up then? What else you got?
Let's wrap it up. I'm definitely ready to put this one behind me and get to working. Oh my gosh! Speaking of Dave Heyman,
Whoa. He's calling. He's listening. We're
he
on live.
literally just called me.
That's
So yeah,
great.
let's wrap it up.
All right. So obviously Instagram, we are what? You don't know? Conjob Pod.
Conjob Pod.
Thank you. Facebook, we're Conjob. YouTube, Conjob. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. That way you get all our info up quick. So do it or I will murder your face.
Yes.
Yeah. Bye,
No.
guys.
Bye.